Welcome to the Christian Woman Leadership Podcast, where we hope to inspire you to embrace your God-given gifts, skills, and passions in order to lead with confidence. We want you to remember that you are fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God, and you are fully loved by Him.
You have been designed on purpose by God with unique gifts and passions in order to love and lead those around you. I'm your host, Esther Littlefield.
And I'm Esther's co-host, Holly Kane.
Together, we chat about important issues that Christian women leaders face. In addition, we interview other women just like you who lead in various roles, from church to community to business. Through this podcast, we offer you encouragement, tools, and resources to help you on your leadership journey. We are so glad you're here with us.
Hey friend, it's Esther here with you today, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here with me today. I am here to dive into our Purposeful Goal Setting series, and we're going to talk about step 1 of the framework. Now, hopefully you listened yesterday to the intro that Holly and I did, and we shared with you a little bit about what this is all about. If you missed that, go back and listen to that episode just so you know what we're doing over the next several days. Now, one thing I want to mention is when we originally recorded that intro, we were planning to release this a couple weeks ago. And then I got sick, and our plans to record the following episodes kind of went by the wayside. And so I am now finally getting a chance. I'm still recovering from being sick, but I feel like I'm able to get through recording today. So I'm going to go ahead and share with you about this first step, reflection. All right, so maybe you're like Holly and some other gals that I know who don't really love the reflection part of this framework. It's easy to skip over this, especially if you are more future-oriented, or you just love getting started on new goals and you have lots of ideas already about what you want to accomplish in the future. But taking time to reflect is foundational to effective goal setting. It's really important to know where you've been before you start thinking about where you want to go in the next season or phase of life. And this is one of my favorite quotes and about reflection, and I've heard it originally. Emily P. Freeman quotes this often. It's from John Dewey. It says, "We do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience." So really, when you take time to reflect, it helps you to take stock of what you have experienced in the past year or the past season and really think through what worked, what didn't work. What do you need to change? It really will set you up for much more effective goals if you take this time. So let me tell you a couple other things that reflection will help you do. It'll help you see how you've set goals in the past and how it has worked for you or not. It'll help you to look at how life circumstances affected your goals. It helps you to plan for goals that you can actually accomplish. It's going to give you confidence in your future goals. It's going to help you to be smart about how you move forward in the future. I find it also helps put you in the right mindset. And most importantly, this time for reflection helps you to hear from God. So I want to encourage you, even if it's not your favorite thing to do, that you still take time to go ahead and do the reflection before you go on to the next parts of our goal setting framework. All right. Now, maybe you're saying, well, what should I reflect on? What do I think about when I do this reflection? There's three areas that I recommend you reflect on, and we actually talked through these on past episodes of the podcast. We talked through this in episode 128, 130, and 131. And these 3 areas are your circumstances, your relationships, and your goals and dreams. And so you can break it down into those 3 categories when you start to reflect. And if you want more on that, again, go listen to those episodes. I'll put those links in the show notes so you can click right through and listen to those episodes and get some insights on how to do that reflection. All right, so let's get into how do you actually do this? How do you do the reflection, especially if it's not something that comes naturally to you or isn't part of your normal routine? If you're not normally a journaler or, someone who does like seasonal reflection, what should you do? Okay. First of all, choose a time. Just set aside a time on your calendar. It might be an hour. It might be an afternoon. Maybe you can block a whole day. But if this is new to you, just set aside an hour to do this. I promise it'll be worth it. Then choose a place. I personally find that getting out of my normal routine and getting into a different kind of environment is best for me. Usually that means getting outdoors if possible, but maybe you just want to go to a coffee shop. Maybe you want to go to, your favorite library. Maybe there's a fun office space, co-working space that you like to go to. Maybe it's just a different space in your home that you want. Maybe you go sit on your deck and look out at the backyard. Wherever it is, choose a place that you will be open to spending this time to do reflection and that you won't have a lot of distractions. Okay. Now, the next thing is choose a method. How are you going to do this reflection? Of course, my preference is to do some form of journaling, some form of writing down your reflections, because it's very easy to do this if you just do it in your head, to just forget what you have reflected on after you walk away. So some form of writing down I recommend. You could do a journal, you could do a whiteboard, you could grab a big pad of paper, big Post-it notes, and have different things that you're writing on different Post-it notes. If that's what you like to do, you could verbally process. If that's more your style, you could do verbal processing. Maybe you just open up your voice notes app on your phone or some form of recording and record some of your reflections. Again, if you prefer to do that over writing, that can work. Maybe you go for a walk and you process as you walk. And again, if you don't want to write things down, maybe you just do some bullet points after your walk to kind of hold on to the key points that you reflected on. Personally, one of my favorite things to do is to get away for an overnight at around the end of the year, beginning of the new year. Of course, this is coming out very late in January. And so I'm not doing that this year, but in the past many years, I have taken one night away to do my reflection and goal setting. So whatever you find works best for you. Sometimes it's not possible to get away. I get that. So sometimes it's just a quiet evening on a couch with a candle lit and just having notebooks handy and some questions to work through. Okay. Now I want to share a few tools that you can use for your reflection, because maybe you're still like, well, I don't know what even to reflect on. Okay. Here's a few tools that I have used in the past. One is Power Sheets. So I've talked about Power Sheets before. I will put my affiliate link in the show notes. It's not too late to get Power Sheets if you're still looking for a tool to use. If you go to estherlittlefield.com/Power Sheets, that will give you all the resources that Power Sheets offers. Okay. I also sometimes just use a journal and a notebook, or pens and a notebook. You can use big Post-it notes, like I mentioned, if you want to have a Sharpie and a big Post-it note and have different things that you're journaling about or writing down on the wall. You can also use your voice recorder on your phone. And I want to let you know that we have a free processing and reflection guide that we created that went along with those episodes I mentioned earlier, 128, 130, and 131. And, I actually pulled this up when I was preparing for this episode, and I was really surprised by how good it was. Not to say that I didn't think that we usually give you good resources, but I actually went through and used this for my own reflection this year. I went through the questions. Some of them are really hard. Some of the questions are going to force you to dig deep. And we created it around the end of 2020, after we had just kind of like everybody had this crazy year with the pandemic. And so some of the questions were sort of geared around some of the things that happened in that year, but I still found that it was very useful for me to go through that guide and really work through the questions. So I'm going to put the link in the show notes. Again, it's a totally free processing and reflection guide that you can grab to work through some of these questions. And that'll get you started on what to do, what to think through. Again, you can also go back and listen to the episodes. I will put a couple other episodes in the show notes that we had done way back at the beginning of the podcast about reflection. So I'll put that there too, because we did go through some questions in that episode as well that you might find helpful. All right, friend, thank you for being here with me for part 1 of the goal setting framework. Tomorrow, you're going to hear from Holly all about dreaming and casting vision for your future. And I know you're going to love getting to hear from her and dig into the next part of our purposeful goal setting.
Thanks for joining us on the Christian Women Leadership Podcast. Do you want to become a more confident leader? Then make sure to grab the Confident Leader Manifesto. This is a resource that Holly and I developed just for you, and I share all about it in episode 6, Leading with Confidence. You can get the manifesto for yourself at estherlittlefield.com/confident. And that's confident with a T. Now, don't forget, your leadership matters, and it's time for you to embrace your gifts and lead with confidence.